So stress, unfortunately, is just going to be a fact of life because you can't avoid it. So developing a mindset where you can manage that stress, where you can manage that adversity is really going to be a key skill that you're going to have irrespective of what stage you are in your life. And I think mental toughness for me is about the ability to stay focused even in the face of adversity and even when you come up against what can seem to be insurmountable challenges. So in this video we're going to be going through some top tips in order to improve your mental toughness. And I think this is probably one of the most fundamental points for me. Challenge your negative thoughts. When you have a negative thought about yourself, really challenge it, really analyse it. Really think, is this true? Is this something that can be objectively proven? If you're starting to feel like a failure, start to list all your accomplishments or go through things that you've gone through recently and think, did I actually fail on that? Was that outside of my control and this is my reaction to it? In each instance, really break down, if you did go wrong, how you would improve yourself. Turn that negative into a positive. The tip here is not necessarily to delude yourself into thinking that you did everything perfectly. It's about really being critical of yourself, but not overly critical. Break your goals down to be realistic. Now, this is from Brian Tracy's book about goal setting. We all have these grand plans, these grand ambitions about where we want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be.
I've always said, have a plan and stick to it.
And I think really a key aspect of that, certainly from my perspective and certainly something that I've adopted recently, is focusing on the incremental steps. I want to move into this house. What do I have to do to get there? I have to get this promotion. In order to get this promotion, I have to deliver this next piece of work. And so when you start to break things down into those smaller steps, you can start to really understand how it fits into a much wider vision, how those incremental improvements that you make, when you're consistently showing up day after day, how they fit into a much wider scheme. And I think breaking down smaller tasks also just makes bigger tasks seem less daunting. Celebrate your small successes. This is kind of linked to the previous point. I think if you're in a position where you've got this grand vision, this big, and if you've broken it down into those smaller, more manageable steps, then when you achieve those steps, celebrate them. This will keep you motivated towards the longer term and help you keep your eye on the prize. Don't be afraid to fail. This is something I picked up from Angela Duckworth's book. It can be really tempting to scroll social media and you just see everyone's successes. You don't see any of the sacrifices that people have had to make. And it's just totally unrealistic.
Medical evaluation, fail. Physical evaluation, fail.
I find it to be the case in my own personal life, in my own career, is actually mistakes are where I've learned some of the most important and the most valuable lessons. And so rather than focusing on the fear, focus on the deliverable. This is what I'm afraid of, but if I can break through that fear, this is what I get out of it. Develop a growth mindset. This is kind of a simple concept. The idea is you have two mindsets. You either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is someone who believes that they can't improve, that, what will be, and you sort of have to stick in the box that you've been put in. But people with a growth mindset are virtually the complete opposite. They believe that through dedication and through hard work they can better themselves and therefore better the circumstances that they find themselves in. And I think this is probably one of the most fundamental points for me, because if you're someone who naturally has, or you've worked on yourself and you now have a growth mindset, it means that when you face these setbacks, when you face these challenges, you've got that mindset to really figure out what your next step is going to be, to figure out, this is the problem, how do I overcome it? This is the obstacle, what's the way round it? Surround yourself with positive people.
What positive? Positive what?
There are all these studies that show that if one of your friends get fat, then you're more likely to get fat, or that if your friend's friend gets fat, then you're more likely to get fat. And in my view, it's who you surround yourselves with. It's the people who you surround yourselves with that you ultimately benchmark yourselves against. Now, this is not to say you can't have fat friends. Obviously, that's dumb. But I think when it comes to specific goals, having friends who sort of motivate you in individual areas of your life, I think, can be really key. Maybe you've got a friend who's got a great relationship with their kids and that's what you want. Maybe you've got another friend who's got a very successful career and you want to try and emulate that. I think all of that is perfectly reasonable, but in the end your friends should also make you happy. Putting all of that aside, even if your friends aren't all those things, even if they're just supportive of you, you're on to winners there. Take care of your physical health. This is something I picked up from a book called Spark, and I think the link between your physical health and your mental health over the last 5 or 10 years, that link has been really well documented, and increasingly the evidence shows how interconnected those two are.
Do you exercise?
And it's all the usual stuff that you would expect. It's drinking plenty of water, it's eating healthily, it's exercising regularly. All of these things are going to be key attributes to developing this kind of growth mindset that we keep talking about. If you go out the night before, you get absolutely shit-faced, and you wake up the next morning, then you're not going to feel like you have a growth mindset when you're hanging like a dog. Practice mindfulness. This is a practice which I think has come to prominence in the last 5 or 10 years. I've sort of dabbled with it in and out, and I think I do generally find that when I am going through a period of practicing mindfulness that I do feel less stressed, I do feel a bit more calm. Now, my experience is obviously anecdotal, but I think there's plenty of evidence to also support that. Meditate. Now, alternatively, there is meditation.
Meditate on this. I will.
And in my view, one of the big misconceptions about meditation is that there's only one kind, there's only one thing you can do for meditation, and I don't think that's the case. I think there are different kinds of meditation, so really finding one that works for you is going to be absolutely key. And the last one, and maybe the most important one, is getting professional help. If you're struggling to improve your mental toughness on your own, then it can be, maybe it's a last resort for you, maybe you don't, it's not a route that you particularly want to go down, but seeking professional help can, I think, really have its benefits. It's certainly something that I've done in the past. So what have we talked about? We've talked about some of the really key areas that you need to be focusing on in order to, I think, improve your mental toughness. We've referred to some scientific literature, we've referred to some prominent books in the field, and I've talked about my own personal experiences. But, you know, all this might be for absolutely naught, because the key thing, I think, is finding each of these that fit in with your lifestyle. I've got kids, I've got a full-time job. Finding 20 minutes or half an hour every day to meditate is not really something which I can do on a consistent basis. But when I'm commuting into the office, I can have a growth mindset. I can use that as an opportunity to read books, listen to podcasts, that sort of thing. Find the ones that fit around your life, that work to your specific circumstances. Thanks very much for watching. This is another episode of Modern Money Talk, where we talk all things personal finance and personal development related. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below. And comment, what do you think we've missed, and what does mental toughness mean to you, and how do you think you would improve your mental toughness? And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Peace out.